The Russians tried to advance on the Lyman front over the course of the past 24 hours, but had no success. A total of 40 combat clashes with Russians occurred during the day. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Information is of 6 o'clock on the 22nd of July. Quote, "The Russian Federation launched a missile and airstrike on Ukraine again today, the 22nd of July, ed. The information is currently being confirmed. Details. During the past day, Russians launched 16 missile strikes, more than 20 airstrikes, and attacked the positions of Ukrainian troops and settlements 50 times using multiple launch rocket systems. As a result of Russian terrorist attacks, children and adult civilians have been killed and injured, with grain storage facilities in the south of Ukraine, industrial facilities, and more than 70 civilian residential buildings and other infrastructure destroyed and damaged. Russians are concentrating their main efforts on the Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts, where more than 40 combat engagements took place over the past day. On the Severshina and Slobozhanshina fronts, Russian forces launched mortar and artillery attacks on more than 15 settlements, damaging, in particular, Honcharivsky, Chernihiv Oblast, Stukalivka, Bilovati, Stepny, Morozova Dolina, Sumy Oblast, and Hatish, Vovchansky Kudary, Bochko, Krul and Budarki, Kharkiv Oblast. Ukrainian forces are firmly holding the line on the Kupiansk front. Krasny Persh, Novomlinsk, Kupiansk, Novosinov and Sinkivka, Kharkiv Oblast came under Russian artillery and mortar fire. On the Lyman front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the area of Nadia, Makivka, Nevsky, Luhansk Oblast, Serebryanka Forest and Dubrova, Donetsk Oblast. Russians carried out airstrikes in the area of Serebryanka Forest, Spern and Dubrova, Donetsk Oblast. The settlements of Nevsky and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Torsky, Verkhnyokamyansk, Spern and Rozdalivka, Donetsk Oblast were hit by artillery fire. On the Bakhmut front, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled all Russian attacks near Horahorivka. More than 15 settlements, including Kostantinivka, Oleksandro Shultin, Stupochki, Klashivka, Druzhba and New York Donetsk Oblast were affected by Russian fire. On the Avdiivka front, the defense forces repelled all the attacks near Pervomaisk, Donetsk Oblast. The Russians bombarded in the area of Avdiivka, and deployed artillery to attack more than 15 civilian settlements, including Novokulinov, Krasnohorivka, Stepov, Avdiivka, Pervomaisk and Nevelsky, Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukrainian forces continued to hold back an offensive by Russian troops in the area of Marinka and Krasnohorivka. The Russians attacked more than 15 civilian settlements, including Marinka, Heorhivka, Maximilianivka, Hostre, Pobeda and Novomikhailivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian forces carried out unsuccessful offensive operations near Novomikhailivka and Blahodatna, Donetsk Oblast. Russians shelled more than 10 settlements, in particular, Vuhledar, Prekostivka, Neskuchny and Blahodatna came under Russian fire. Russian forces on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts are focusing their efforts on preventing Ukrainian forces from advancing. They carried out an airstrike in and around Kozatsky, Kherson Oblast. More than 30 settlements, including Novodorivka, Malinivka, Chervon, Mali Sherbaki, Stepov, Lobkovy, Khatakotki, Zaporizhia Oblast, Dmitrivka, Tyainka, Sadov, Dniprovsky, Antonivka, Kherson Oblast, the city of Kherson, as well as Oshaki, Mykolaiv Oblast came under fire. Meanwhile, Ukraine's defense forces continued to conduct offensive operations on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, where they are consolidating the positions they had previously captured. Over the course of the day, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 14 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel, weapons and equipment were concentrated, and 3 on anti-aircraft systems. The defenders also destroyed 11 reconnaissance operational tactical UAVs. Units from Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 2 clusters of Russian military personnel, weapons and equipment, 5 field artillery units, and an electronic warfare station. Russians pushing ahead on 5 fronts, with 33 combat clashes taking place, General Staff report. In addition to missile strikes, the Russian occupiers launched 12 airstrikes on the 21st of July, with 33 combat clashes taking place at the front. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 21st of July. Details. On the 21st of July, Russian occupation forces launched another large-scale missile and airstrike on the territory of Ukraine, using 3 Kaliber C-launched cruise missiles, 4 Iskander ground-launched cruise missiles, 6 Onyx cruise missiles, 1 Kh-59 cruise missile and 1 anti-aircraft guided missile from an S-300 air defense system. In addition, Russian forces carried out 12 airstrikes and launched 29 attacks using multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of Ukrainian troops and settlements. As a result of the Russian terrorist attacks, unfortunately, children and civilians have been killed and injured. Grain depots in the south of Ukraine and industrial facilities have been destroyed and damaged. More than 70 civilian residential buildings and other infrastructure have been destroyed and damaged. The likelihood of missile and air strikes throughout Ukraine remains high. Russians continue to focus their main efforts on the Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts. Heavy fighting continues. Over the course of the day, 33 combat clashes took place. On the Lyman front, the Russian conducted unsuccessful offensives in the areas of Nadia, Makivka, Nevsky, Luhansk Oblast, and Serebryanka Forest, Dubrovnik Donetsk Oblast. On the Bakhmut front, under heavy fire from Russian artillery, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled their attacks near Hrohorivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Avdiivka front, under heavy fire from the Russian aircraft and artillery, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled the attacks of Russian troops in the area of Pervomaisk, Donetsk Oblast. The Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine inflicted 13 strikes on areas of concentration of Russian personnel, weapons and military equipment, 3 of which targeted Russian anti-aircraft missile systems. Units of rocket forces and artillery struck a cluster of Russian personnel, weapons and military equipment, 2 artillery and firing positions and 1 electronic warfare station. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on July 22 that Russia has lost 241,330 troops, with 640 casualties in the past 24 hours.